Good morning, children. Welcome to a new learning world of K-Tech High School and Junior College. Children, are you all ready to enter a new learning world with me? Yes? Yes. So, children, I promise you, this session of ours will be full of fun, joy, and I want you all to be with me till last. Now, today, children, in our session, we are going to do a wonderful and a beautiful and a fascinating poem from Bal Bharti, Vocation, written by Rabindranath Tagore. Now, what does vocation means? Children, vocation means a career that one pursues as his means of living is called vocation. That means a profession. Now, what does that means? A profession can be a teacher, doctor, engineer, pilot, scientist, air hostess. Now, this profession, when a person pursues as a means of living, means to support himself and his family, is called vocation. Now, you all must also be having some dreams, right? That when you grow up, you will become a doctor, engineer, air hostess, a teacher, a scientist, an astronaut. And when you pursue your dream, right, that is a dream also. And that later becomes a means of living, that is vocation. Now, this poem, children, is about a small child whose mind is full of fascination. He is attracted towards some people like bangle seller, gardener, and a watchman. And he decides to pursue a profession of either a bangle seller, a gardener, and a watchman. Now, this child is a very innocent child. He is unaware of the difficulties these people face to support their family. It's a beautiful, as I told you, it's a beautiful and a very fascinating poem written by Rabindranath Tagore. But don't you think so? That we should know who is Rabindranath Tagore, who wrote this poem. So let's meet Rabindranath Tagore and let us know something about the poem and the poet. Now, Rabindranath Tagore was born on 7th of May 1861 in Calcutta. Today we call it Kolkata. Rabindranath Tagore was a very talented person, children. He won the Nobel Prize for Literature in 1913. He was the first children non-European to be awarded a Nobel Prize by the British in literature. He was also given a title of Sir, which he gave up after a Jallianwala Bagh massacre. That means he did not keep that title of Sir and he gave up to the Britishers because he was deeply hurt when he saw a Jallianwala Bagh massacre That was a tyrannical rule of the British. Now, let us know what his interest was. He was an avid reader from his childhood, and that led him to what, children? Writing. That is, he penned all his thoughts in form of dramas, essays, songs, poems, and paintings. He was a very good singer too, children. He wrote a book called Gitanjali, children, which is a collection of poems. And whatever he wrote, children, poems or essays or songs, all his work was written in Bengali, which was later translated into English and other languages. And do you all know one thing, children? He has written our famous, yes, national anthem, Janagana Mana, that we recite with great vigor. And recently, children, UNESCO declared it as the best anthem of the world. Now, UNESCO is what, children? The full form of UNESCO is United Nations Educational and Scientific and Cultural Organization. Now, Rabindranath Tagore, when the period where Rabindranath Tagore was, that period, children, was a period where education was not given much importance. That was British period. Definitely British is encouraged, but our Indian society was very rigid. And he built children university known as Santiniketan to impart education. He started this university with 5 students. And today, children, there are 6,000 students studying in that university. And that was established in 1921. Now, that's all for Rabindranath Tagore in short. Now, this is Rabindranath Tagore with his family. Now, let's get started with the explanation of a poem. But before that, let's read the poem, children. Right? Vocation. When the gong sounds 10 in the morning and I walk to school by our lane. Every day I meet a hawker, bangles, crystal bangles, crying. That bangles, crystal bangles. That hawker is crying. There is nothing to hurry him on. There is no road he must take, no place he must go to, no time when he must come home. I wish I were a hawker, spending my day in the road crying, bangles, crystal bangles. When at 4 in the afternoon I come back from the school, I can see through the gate that house the gardener digging the ground. He does what he likes with his spade. He soils his clothes with dust. Nobody takes him to task. If he gets baked in the sun or gets wet, I wish I were a gardener digging away at a garden with nobody to stop me from digging. Just as it gets dark in the evening and my mother sends me to bed, I see through my open window The watchman walking up and down the lane is dark and lonely, and the street lamps stands like a giant with one red eye in its head. The watchman swings his lantern and walks with the shadow at his side and never once goes to bed in his life. I wish I were a watchman walking the streets at night, chasing the shadows with my lantern. Rabindranath Tagore. Now, children, there are certain meanings on the right side. Gong, a gong, bell of the school, right? So the flat metal bell rang to draw people's attention. Take someone to task means to scold. One-eyed giant, children, we are talking here. He is talking about a Greek mythological character who had one eye on his head. Chasing his shadow means following imaginary goals or a target. Now let's start with our warming up exercise, children, first. Now, here, children, pick out the words that refer to means of living and fill them in the web. Here, there are certain professions given. You have to fill in this blank. Then, use a good dictionary to find the shades of differences in the following. Profession refers to what? Vocation refers to what? Business refers to what? Occupation refers to what? And question number three is, children, what? When a word is formed from a sound associated, that is figures of speech, we have already done that. Onomatopoeia, the sound made by a particular object, a musical sound, that is onomatopoeia. So I've done for you all. Now, means of living, all those words which are there up, you have to fill in this yellow part. So I have done it below. Means of living is occupation, job, vocation, profession, sorry children, trade, employment, mission, career. Let's move on to the next slide, children. From a good dictionary, find the shades of difference in the following. Now, vocation answers, right? Question and it's like a question answers. What does it mean? Now, what does profession means? Profession refers to a paid occupation, especially one that involves prolonged training and formal qualifications. Yes, that means if you want to become a doctor, engineer, whatever it is, it's a long training and studies that you have to undergo, right? And then you are termed as a qualified doctor or an engineer. Second question is vocation on that is, what does vocation means? Vocation refers to an occupation for which a person is specially drawn or suited. It is an occupation for which a person is specially following it and he is well suited for that occupation. Question to answer number three, business. What does business refer to? Business refers to the activity of buying or selling goods or services, a commercial activity done by a person at his own risk. Shopkeepers, they sell goods, right? And he takes risk also. Sometimes profit, sometimes loss. So that is business. It's an activity. The question number four, that is four, is what? Occupation. Occupation refers to a person's usual or a principal work or a business, especially as a means of living. This is also an occupation that a person does for his earning. Now, this is the first paragraph, the second and the third. Now we will do with the explanation. When a gong sounds 10 in the morning and I walk to school by a lane, every day I meet the hawker crying, bangles, crystal bangles. Now, here the child says that whenever I go to school every day at 10 o'clock, that gong sound, gong is the sound of a bell, right? And he goes to school in the morning. And when he's walking towards the school, he says that every day I meet the hawker crying bangles. Bangles means churiya, crystal bangles, kaach ki churiya. He says, every day I meet this hawker. There is nothing to hurry him on. There is no road he must take, no place he must go to, no time when he must come home. I wish I were a hawker spending my day in the road crying bangles, crystal bangles. Now, the child, as I told you, his mind is full of fascination. So he says, this bangle seller is not at all in hurry. There is no road. He does not decide what road he has to go. He just goes on any road, any streets, and he just keeps on walking. And he also does not know the time when he must go home. Means to return home to his family. The time is not fixed. I wish I were a hawker. So the child says that I wish, because this child is a schoolboy and his parents are a very strict disciplinarian, right? He has a fixed time to go to school and fixed time to return. So when he says that he is bound with certain time limits, he feels that this bangle seller has no fixed time and he can go anywhere. So he decides to become a bangle seller. But this child here also is unaware that this bangle seller goes from one street to other street selling his ware, right, without considering the harsh weather, sometimes hot, sometimes rains. And that he's doing what? He's walking and walking and walking to earn something for his family so that his family has enough food before they go to sleep. But the child is full of fascination. So he feels, just because he's bounded by the time limit, and he feels that this hawker is not at all bounded by the time limit, he wants to be a bangle seller. When at 4 in afternoon I come back from the school, I can see through the garden, through the gate of that house, the gardener digging the ground. Now this child is telling when at 4, when he returns home, evening time from his school, he sees a gardener at the gate digging the ground. Definitely, what is the job of a gardener? To remove weeds, plant some new plant, all that, right? So he sees that this gardener is busy digging the garden. He does what he likes with his spade. He soils his clothes with his dust. Nobody takes him to task. If he gets baked in the sun or gets wet, I wish I were a gardener digging away at a garden with nobody to stop me from digging. Now, this child, he's thinking that this gardener is such a nice person. He can do whatever he likes. Even if he spoils his clothes with the soil, मतलब मट्टी लगती है ना, देखिए उसको कोई डांटने वाला नहीं है with dust. एंड कोई भी nobody takes him to task means डांटने वाला कोई भी नहीं है अगर उसके कपड़े गंदे होते हैं तो. If he gets baked in the sun or gets wet, अगर वो कपड़े खराब होते हैं या गार्डनर जब खुदाई करता है पानी देता है तो उसके कपड़े गीले होते हैं तो ही से द चाइल्ड फील्स दैट नोबडी स्कोल्ड्स हिम if that means nobody scolds him if he gets dirty with dust and water. That means what? If child spoils his clothes in school, the parents scold him why he is dirty today. So that is why the child feels that I wish I were a gardener digging away at the garden with nobody to stop me from digging. कोई मुझे डांटने वाला ही नहीं चाहिए. So he said, मैं डिग करूंगा तो मुझे कोई डांटने वाला ही नहीं मिलेगा. Because his parents are always after him if he soils his clothes, if he gets wet and comes home in rains. So he feels that if I wish I were a gardener. And if I were a gardener, nobody would scold him, right? See, his mind is full of such a beautiful fascination and imagination. But here also, the child is unaware of the difficulties that a gardener faces, right? He has to work in scorching heat, in rain, removing weeds, right? Whole day outside the house where there is no shelter above his head. And this is what he is doing for whom? His own family. That is, he is earning hard to support his family. Next, children. Just as it gets dark in the evening and my mother sends me to bed, I can see through my open window the watchman walking up and down. Now this boy is in the house and what does he see? It's already evening time and the mother is instructed him to go to bed. The mother told him to go to bed because next day he has got school. And the child says that when I open my window, what do I see? I see through my open window, watching what children? A watchman walking up and down. He's just वो रखवाली करता है ना. वॉचमैन क्या करता है? आपकी बिल्डिंग की क्या करता है? रखवाली करता है ना. Every building in Pune has, right? I think everywhere in huge buildings there are watchmen, right? The lane is dark and lonely, and the street lamp stands like a giant with one red eye in its head. The watchman swinging the lantern and walks with his shadow at his side and never once goes to bed in his life. Now the child is thinking, it's such a nice thing to become a watchman that during the night time when it is dark and lonely, only the street lamps are lighted. And he feels that these street lights are like giant with a red eye on its head, and the lantern is swinging in the hands of watchman, and he is walking with his shadow in a lonely night. And the child feels this watchman never goes to sleep. Definitely, everyone goes to sleep, right? The child feels and that he never once goes to bed in his life. Now, this is what? Figure of speech, children? Hyperbole, right? This is not possible. So, the child wants to be a watchman because that particular night he is not sleepy and he wants to go out in the dark, lonely night, and he doesn't want anybody to scold him because he's not sleepy. But here also, child is unaware of what, children? The hardship the watchman is facing, right? He has to take care of the society or a place which he is put up as a guard. He has to stay awake to watch the society or a house. And this is he's doing for whom? His family. That is what the child is unaware of it. Isn't it a beautiful poem, children? I wish I were a watchman walking the street all night, chasing the shadow with my lantern. And so the child is wishing or telling himself, I wish I were a watchman walking down the street, dark, lonely street, and chasing the shadow with a lantern in my hand. Because that particular night, the child is not sleepy. Now, children, in text question, as you all know, it was a beautiful poem, right? Now, what does the hawker advertises aloud? Answer: the hawker advertises aloud bangles, crystal bangles. Question number two: who is scolded if he gets dirty? The child is scolded if he gets dirty. By whom? By the parents. So that is why he wants to be a gardener, right? There will be nobody to scold him. What accompanies the watchman? The watchman's shadow accompanies him. Now, workshop, children, from your textbook. Which of the following words or phrases match with the meaning underlined ones? You have to, it is like a match the column, but these are phrases. Nobody takes him to task, scolds and corrects. I've already done for you. Dash if he gets baked in the sun, exposed to the heat. Chasing the shadow with my lantern, following imaginary goals. The lane is dark and lonely, deserted. He soils his clothes with dust, dirtying his clothes. There is no road he must take, no particular route. That is which we are talking about, bangle seller. Now, read the poem and fill in the blank. The table which is there in your textbook. Time of the day, three times of the days are mentioned over here, right? Morning, afternoon, and night. Now, in morning, when the child is walking down the lane, and where he is going in the morning to the school, that is walking to the school. That is poet's activity. Hawker's activity is selling bangles. What did he see? Hawker selling bangles. Does he see gardener in the morning? Watchman? No. So just keep that place blank. Now, when he returns at 4 in the afternoon near the poet's house, that means walking home from school, right? Can he see the same bangle seller? No. So that remains blank. But when he sees in a home or a house, what he sees? A gardener digging the ground. Night, the poet's home, watching the watchman from his bed. He's not sleepy. Is he seeing a hawker and a gardener at that time? No. But what does he see in a watchman? That he's walking up and down the street swinging his lantern. So, where certain places you just leave it empty, children. Now, think and answer in your own words. What could be the age group of the speaker in the poem? The age group of the speaker in the poem could be 10 to 13 years. Number B, what is the difference between a hawker and a shopkeeper? The difference between hawker and a shopkeeper is that a hawker does not have a fixed shop. He goes from street to street selling his wares. The shopkeeper has a fixed shop, and the people who want to buy his goods must go to his shop. Now, hawker, as I told you, he goes from one street to another, right? Selling his goods. But shopkeeper, does he go from one street to another? No. He has a fixed place where he sells his things. People visit the shop. How do parents react when they see children soil their clothes in dust and heat? When parents see the children exposed to heat or soil, their clothes in the dust, they scold them and stop them from doing it. What do your parents tell you when you spoil the dress? They scold you, right? So here also in the poem, the parents, what do they do to the poet? They scold. That poet is a small boy. They scold him if he dirties his clothes. Why is the street light compared to the one red-eyed giant? The street light is very tall and has a single red light at the top. Hence, it is compared to a giant with one red eye. What exactly does speaker in the poem crave for? The speaker in the poem, who is a young schoolboy, craves for a complete freedom to do whatever he wants and whenever he wants. He wants freedom from authority. He wants to lead a carefree life. Your children, as I told you, the speaker in the poem means the small boy who is a school going. He wants freedom. That means he does not want anyone to scold him. He just wants to be doing things according to his whims and fancies. अपनी मर्जी का करना चाहता है. Whims and fancies means अपनी मर्जी का. He wants freedom from authority. Authority is what? His parents. He doesn't want that his parents should scold him. उसको उनसे भी आजादी चाहिए. He wants to, that means he wants to live a carefree life. बिना कोई फिक्र की उसको लाइफ जीनी है. Does the poet really wish to become a hawker, gardener, and a watchman? Justify your response. The poet does not really wish to become a hawker, gardener, or a watchman. He is very childish. छोटा बच्चा है ना? It is his fascination and, and sees only that he thinks is their carefree life. He does not see the difficulties. He actually only craves for complete freedom from authority. He is not able to see, he is unaware of the difficulties these people, that is hawker and a gardener and a watchman, face. He is unaware of it. He only craves for complete freedom. It is just that he wants to be a free soul. Nobody scolding him or being after him to or bound him with the time limit. He wants the freedom from the authority. That means he wants a carefree life, right, children? Say why the speaker of the poem wishes to be a hawker. The speaker in the poem feels that there is nothing to hurry. The hawker, there is no fixed road he must travel by, no place that he must go to, and no time when he must get back home. The speaker feels he is lucky and hence he wishes to be a hawker. It means that the speaker wants to be free to do what he wants and go wherever he wants to without any restrictions. Gardener, the speaker in the poem sees that the gardener in the nearby house digging the ground. He does what he likes with his spade. He is free to get his clothes soiled with mud, get baked in the sun, and get wet. No one scolds him. Hence, the speaker wishes to be a gardener so that he is able to enjoy freedom in the open without any restriction. Watchman. The speaker in this is in his bed. Through the open window, he can see watchmen walking up and down the dark and lonely street with a lantern and in his hand. The speaker is resentful that he has to go to bed at means a early rising and early sleeping. So the mother had instructed him to go to bed and he's not sleepy. He thinks that a watchman never goes to bed in his life. Hence, he wishes to become a watchman and walks up and down in the dark streets at night, having fun chasing the shadow with his lantern. Now, pick out the lines that contains alliteration, simile, repetition, and onomatopoeia. This is a poetic device, children. This poem, children, consists of certain figures of speech you have to pick out. Now, what is alliteration? As you all know, it's a repetition or a beginning of a sound of a particular word. I can see through the gates the gardener digging the ground. T and G sound, that is T and G sound, is repeated, right? He does what he likes with his spade. He soils his clothes. Repetition of sound, her, that is H. Nobody takes him to task. Again, the repetition of the letter T takes to task. T sound, that is T sound. My mother sends me to bed. M. Repetition of the sound of the letter M. Through my open window, the watchman walking up and down. Walk. That is W sound is repeated. Now, simile. The street lamp stands like a giant with one red eye in its head. So the street light is compared with the word using word like, that is a direct comparison and it is a simile. It is compared to what? Giant with one red eye in its head. So the street light is directly compared to the giant using the word like. Repetition. The words bangles, crystal bangles are repeated in this poem that creates the image in our mind of a hawker, right? A figure of speech, what is it? A mental picture is created. The words no and nobody are repeated for emphasis. Onomatopoeia, the gong sounds 10. In the above line, the word gong, children, is an onomatopoeia word formed from the sound associated with it, that is bell, right? Now, some important questions, children, which you have to write in your, or every question answers you have to write in your notebooks. So let's do some additional one, which are very important. Choose the correct alternative and rewrite the complete sentence. Means you have to choose the right answer. The hawker is advertising aloud for selling metal bangles or crystal bangles? Crystal bangles. The hawker is advertising aloud, selling crystal bangles. Question number two, the narrator. The gardener is scolded if he gets dirty. The narrator means the poet or the gardener. Definitely, gardener is not scolded. So the narrator is scolded if he gets dirty. The speaker in the poem is a young schoolboy going or an adult going to work. The speaker in the poem is a young schoolboy. Complete the following. This is very important, children. Complete the followings are very important. The difference between a hawker and a shopkeeper is what? That the hawker does not have a fixed shop. He goes from street to street selling his wares. The shopkeeper has a fixed shop, and the people who want to buy his goods must go to his shop. Question number two. When the parents see the children exposed to heat or soil their clothes in dust, what do? They scold them and stop them from doing it. The watchman is accompanied by his lantern, and his shadow is the answer. The street light appears to be answer a giant with a one red eye in its head. That's all for the day, children. I hope you all enjoyed this session, and you are going to do is what? See the video for better understanding, and you will, the more you see, the more you will enjoy. And I'll be posting the same question answers which you will write in your classwork book. Thank you, children, for being with me. Love you all, children.